Hi. I'm calling this one, What the Heck? What the heck? My 1 point comments on sessions done this week. Pain, sad pain, then sad pain again. Getting clear with when we fall into work and we forget to go into play, and then everything starts to feel what the heck again. Going to no comparison, going to mindlessness, knowing it will all work out. The other one I'll unwrap in further share. Spiritual practice in a way that is so deep, it's beautiful. Timelessness, willingness, the ability to make it nothing. But if you can't see that you can't do it, you're kind of in a sad space because you can't see that that's actually how it works. What the heck? And lots of unconscious stuff that is coming to the surface, and it's like I've got no idea where this comes from. So what is showing up is this present moment of now is literally escalating in both directions, or you can have it in that direction, it doesn't matter which direction. But this is a totally different unseen experience, and this is just coming to the surface and we don't know where it's coming from. But it does offer an amazing insight, but it shows up as what the heck. So the pain that showed up was related to this pattern actually, because with the energies that are shifting, and there is a burst of energy that is coming into our energetic field here, it's opened up to the extent where if there was a gate there, the gate got opened. And the same down here, if there's a gate, the gate got opened for that subconscious to come through and reveal itself. Or I feel lost, I can't see myself, but I feel sad. And what happened here was that expanding aspect of self saw itself in a deeper, clearer way. And when we look more deeply and then look at the world, it's sad that others haven't got the same aspect, haven't got the same glasses on, because it gets so misinterpreted to the point where you can only experience it but not necessarily share it. But once you can see it, you can embrace yourself, and the sadness just is everyone's on their own page. Yes, it can feel sad, but you can go to yourself, experience self in that, and then have a perspective where you can see all that's in the world is also wearing their own glasses and their own perspective, and that unknown to us, but it's all okay. It really showed up quite beautifully with one of the people that came in, who's dealing with an extraordinary aspect in her relationship, and her commitment is so deep and so complete. I don't know whether I'd have the capacity. I honestly don't. But what was happening was, okay, this showed up in her partner. And they were over here, right? So in meeting that, she moved closer, just through natural progression, moved closer, moved closer, moved closer. And those that came to visit her or started to see what was happening, there's this element of, do you see what's happening in your life? You can't keep doing this. This is going to take your life away if you get that involved in the care and the process. And it would have been incredibly understandable if it got to a point where this is too much, I can't deal with this anymore. And that is incredibly appropriate at times. What was happening here, and what was beautiful in the revealing, is that that process was going to stay till the very, very end. And this being saw it as a spiritual practice, and in the spiritual practice, that deeper aspect of the unknown aspect of self, to know how deep we can go in recognizing ourselves and what we can stand in, was that practice of meeting oneself in the process. The two cards that actually showed up this week were inspiration and process. And this was very much what was happening here. A friend of mine was just driving down the freeway, getting some things for a celebration that was happening. And it's an anticipated celebration, because celebration is such a large part of her joy in life, and does it often. It's just fabulous. But this time, the driving, all of a sudden, this immense energy of just love that filled everything arrived, and it expanded her experience of self. So it can show up like that as well. How beautiful. These moments are never forgotten. This sense of love, to the point of I am love. Love is all there is. It's an incredible experience. At the other end, there were bits that came from below. It's like, if we are going to meet this mindless open space that is offering itself for stuff we don't even need to mind, we can be mindless. And the more mindless we are, the more it can show up in ways like we cannot imagine. For that to happen, that lower aspect, if there is stuff there, it has to clean out. It has to, and it's like, where did that come from? There were couples who are extraordinary together and admired by communities, and they can't understand how this couple are the way they are. And the nitpicking showed up. This sense of where did this come from? And it was about, what's the matter with him? When in fact it wasn't anything that was the matter with him. It just came up to an aspect that needed to be seen in her, that needs to be seen and corrected, because it came up to be addressed so that this further process can take place. So don't be surprised if you don't know where things are coming from. They're clearing out. One woman that came, it just made so much sense. This absolute annoyance and not knowing how can I resolve it, because no matter what happens, we meet again, but it never really goes anywhere. What is the sticking point? What is the sticking point? And the sticking point here was the immensity of generosity. But you can get tired of that generosity when others around you play with tokenisms. You know, it can be as simple as, oh yeah, you do that, but I'll mow the lawn. Or you do that, yeah, but I'll bring a bottle of wine. And they're tokens, and it just sits in the gut as undigestible and not joyful. Because what we found, what was missing and what was really wanted, was that joy of willingness. While you do that, I'd like to mow the lawn. Let's work this together. And when there's a willingness to share in what it takes to live daily life, a willingness rather than this tokenism, that'll keep her happy. No, it doesn't. Willingness. This willingness is such a potent energy that brings, I can live the rest of my life with you. This willingness is such a joy that all of life shows up in it. So it needs to be addressed. It needs to be found. It needs to be discussed, because if that doesn't show up and you feel irritated that I'm bringing that up as a topic because you think I'm the problem, that's not going to work. The willingness. The willingness. Another sticking point that showed up was, we had a good laugh. It was like it came to a point of stuckness, and what I like at the moment is it really is using the stuckness to reveal something that if that stuckness wasn't there, it wouldn't be able to be seen. So what the heck? And this particular stuckness was, it came to a point where it actually indicated, well, what does the spirit really want? And the being said, yeah, I'd like to know, what does it really, that'd be a good thing, I'd like to know, what does it really want? And it was interesting because it kind of went up and then it took a left turn and then it went, oh, there's nothing there. It needed to find the nothing, because the capacity of this being is so steady on course with the core of what she has a passion with, regardless of what shows up, always moves forward. And eventually, this is made nothing, that is made nothing, then that falls into place and that is made nothing. But we can experience that as a struggle of problems that come along, or we can see it as, it doesn't matter what the problem is because I always make it nothing. So that sticking point allowed that vision of that mindlessness that doesn't see it as a boulder but sees it as whatever it is, I know it'll be moved, it'll be made nothing, because it always does. Totally different way of seeing it. So I think that's probably enough of the share of what showed up this week. What the heck? You know, it's just, regardless of what it is, let it show up, let it reveal itself. And it's good if you can't go into judgment or seeing it as wrong, to go, I don't know where it came from, but here it is. A great clearing. So, inspiration. The river of all-knowing allows every possibility to be open to you. Allow yourself to tap into this vastness, the mindlessness. Be inspired by the beauty that surrounds you. Be inspired to open yourself to the riches the world has to offer. In any moment, you can allow inspirational thinking to set you free. See, all of them are set free. Maybe I should call it freedom. In any moment, you can allow inspirational thinking to set you free. Which moment will you choose? And the card that followed was process, because this is a process. Allow and enjoy the process, which is to be free in it and to be mindless in it. Allow and enjoy the process of your life without rushing to a goal. You know, it isn't a goal, it isn't about getting it over with, because that's a dead end. Experiences are part of the journey. You don't have to understand them all to enjoy the process. Now is the time to look at how you approach and do things. Perhaps make some changes, for what worked for you in the past may not necessarily be the best process for the future. What the heck?